Hey, hello. If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by. Today, we're going to be doing mushroom-inspired character designs, so I do really hope you stick around and watch through the end to see what they end up looking like. We'll be doing 2 characters today. Then, if you have any thoughts along the way, do let me know down below. I would love to know what you think about my ultimate designs, my overall decisions that I make. Then, more so, if you do anything along the way, draw with me, because this is sort of the sketch with me vibes we want to do today. Please tag me on socials. Instagram, I now have an account on Threads, so let me know over there. I would love to see it. Even if you don't do anything creative, if you do anything at all, feel free to let me know. I'm always curious. Very much want to know what people tend to get up to while having me on in the background. Though, with that being said, let's get into the actual mushroom people for today. So if you've watched some of my previous videos, you might know that I am a botany major. Did very much go into this 100% planning to base this exclusively off of singular mushroom species. I immediately went for one of my all-time favorite mushroom species to look at, which is Coprinus comatus. I generally like a lot of the mushrooms in the family Coprinus, so there you go. But for the sake of not sounding too insufferable, we'll be going with the common name shaggy mane mushrooms. I did go for the more inky cap style ones. It's kind of 50-50 when you look up Coprinus comatus if you're going to get inky ones. I don't know what to say about that when it comes to Google, but if you want to find these just ink cap mushrooms or Coprinus comatus, you'll find it. I'll also be putting it up on screen off to the right about now. Then later on, I will be doing a Schizophyllum commune, or Schizophyllum, or Schizophyllum, depending on who you are and if you care. So if you like either of those mushrooms, do let me know. And then also roast or compliment my design choices at your leisure. I am very curious in other people's opinions. Spoiler alert, in love with my first design. So you should definitely let me know your thoughts on that one in particular, because I am hyped about it. So let's get into my actual decisions. By now I have mostly finished the highlighter sketch of the body, the general proportions that I was seeking, and in retrospect I do think that I should have made the thighs a little bit thinner, because the stalk of these mushrooms is notably thin compared to other species, other genuses in general. So I do think that having a stockier, kind of thinner, less voluminous body would have made a little bit more sense, but I am super into how the body ends up looking when I finish everything, and so I took creative liberties. That's what we'll say. Happy accident, just like the happy little trees, because I love how this turns out. Then for the actual mushroom cap, I did put a lot of time into just individually gesturing and loosely approaching the kind of that shag that they have. It did take me way too long. This is, I think, 4 times speed. It took me so long. I got really bad hand cramps during it, but it was completely worth it. I did kind of cheat my way through it and maybe thickened up the base a little more than I originally intended to give me a little bit less surface area, but it was totally worth it. I did go for the thinner at the top, but I didn't necessarily keep it brighter at the top, darker at the base. I did a little bit, but I ended up pulling that kind of depth, that deep kind of grayish tone that's at the base all the way. I very much have it a little bit more shadowed, you'll see in a moment, but a little bit more shadowed than probably I should have. brief music intermission felt appropriate for just not having me fill dead air with me reiterating the same thing. But now we're in the future, and I am taking the same gray highlighter I used for the sketch to add some depth and really a bit more texture. I was a little bit playful with where I placed it, just kind of felt it out. I did tend to apply it on the wetter areas faster, just to have that smudge a little bit. This pen, when wet, will smear, and this highlighter particularly loves to pick up that darkness, so it did help adding tonality with minimal effort. I did go in and fix up some areas along the way, generally just kind of feeling it out. I was looking at my reference, but I was at this point just super into how it was turning out, and I kind of just went for it. So yeah, into the body we go. I was not confident. As confident as that line just was, I was not confident with how I was going to approach the line work, because I was not certain if I wanted it to have particularly thick lines and carry that darkness through, or keep it lighter like the stock of the reference photo. I did ultimately decide to make this a bit more of a brooding or like threatening kind of feeling. I did end up, you'll see, going with much darker lines and not really carrying on with that light stock color. I did end up deciding that while it is brighter than the cap, I did want it to be kind of harshly shaded in some areas, and I definitely wanted it to not feel like it couldn't compare with the cap. I wanted it to generally kind of have a similar feeling all the way across, because it is more body than cap, unlike the reference as well. But I love it. I swear I love it. You should definitely wait to see how it is. I did make the boobs lopsided, but I add enough darkness to the line weight. I thicken it up enough that it evened out, and it definitely helped with the fact that the body is turned a little bit funny, which was kind of skewing my initial set of line work in terms of proportions. I always go in thin and then thicken later, and I don't really I don't approach line weight all at once. I go back in and add the line weight. So it does look a little bit funky for a while, and I am sorry my hand is in the way so much during this video. Particularly with this design, I edited out probably 15 minutes of my hand being just completely in the way of random stuff, because I didn't think that would be interesting to look at. So big jump cuts, that's what you're missing. You're missing my hand. bringing the gray highlighter back in at this point was just to add a little bit more dimension. I was getting to the point in the ugly phase where I was really happy with the cap but not the body, where I really wasn't able to tell exactly if I was getting this anywhere close to where I wanted it. And I generally don't work very well without having a sense of lighting, and so bringing in enough shadow just to make me feel a little bit more grounded in the piece and to give myself a little bit of a sense of light was really crucial to pushing my way through the ugly phase. I don't recommend going in with shadow and stuff like that before you finished your line work the way I am at the moment. I generally don't do this. I'm usually better at pushing through, but I couldn't with this drawing for some reason. I needed something to inspire me to actually like get the body done. And I think that is because I was kind of indecisive on how monstrous I wanted the final piece to look. I was teetering on keeping the light body with minimal shading and stuff to mimic the actual mushroom, and going for a like believable bloodborne enemy kind of feeling sewer system, absolute gnarly kind of enemy to encounter. And it was with that shading where I really decided that I really want to thicken up these lines. I want to add more ink droplets, and I very much do want a more threatening enemy kind of look to her rather than complete emulation of the mushroom. And I do think that kind of is like a downside to my art style in general, or the things that I have really strong affinities to in art. I very much have a extreme love for ink and kind of black gooey things dripping. And so I was presented the opportunity and I eventually take it. And so I do think that I kind of maybe got a little bit out of hand with adding ink later on. And I do think that that kind of like personal like bias for those types of things in designs is kind of what pushed me away from being more mushroom-sided and me being a little bit more kind of less design a enemy for a Souls-like. Me kind of ground myself in the piece and feel a little bit more comfortable with where it was going. However, it really was the thickening of the darks that really made me start feeling like super confident in this piece and was pushing me out of the ugly phase and into the just, wow, this is something else. So yeah, of course, this is supposed to be mushroom people inspired by, so I don't feel too bad about straying away from the reference too much and really going my own route with it. But it was kind of a like decision moment where I couldn't decide if I wanted to stay true to reference or just do whatever I want with it. And the artist in me won, and I went inky, I went dark, and I ended up producing something super pretty. So I hope you like it. Let me know if you agree with my decision to go full inky monster with this one. I'm really curious because I could have just kept it light and not gone this hard. So if you liked it before, let me know. Getting into the final bout of gray highlighter was really just a moment of pure chaos for me, because I definitely didn't know what I was doing, and I'm gonna be honest, I very rarely know exactly what I'm doing. By the time I'm done with a basic sketch, I really do just kind of enter this really cathartic, meditative state with my art, where I kind of just do what feels right and what feels like good as an artist, and finger tappies are definitely necessary as I think through the decision to go into the white highlighter. I go heavy with white highlight. If you're not new here, you know I go heavy with white highlight, and this is just the final bout that really solidifies my love for this piece. I loved it before, but adding the white highlight and really using that to make the texture of the shaggy mane, the shaggy part, like more chaotic and more fun, it was like the nail in the coffin for me. I got like super stoked. I was absolutely falling hard for this. I'm a figure collector, a little bit like a baby figure collector, and I want a scale figure of this, like a 1/7 scale. I am so in love with this mushroom. It's stupid how much I love this mushroom. I very rarely feel this level of artistic pride. I very much love my design choices here, but I do see how it could very much not appeal to certain people's aesthetics and taste, and so I am very interested in critiques on this one, because I kind of just felt my way through it and then woke up on the other side totally with something I wasn't expecting when I went into it, but alrighty, so we're now getting into the Schizophyllum commune inspired drawing. I did speed through this one a little bit faster as far as the sketch goes, because the highlighter is really hard to see, but it does match the colors better out of the highlighters I had available, so this is 6 times speed. And my actual original intentions with this drawing was a mermaid. I really like the fluidity of this mushroom, the fluidity that this species is capable of, especially the reference that I put up earlier, and I just didn't have space to draw a mermaid to a similar scale as the other drawing. And I didn't want to do 2 full bodies that were drastically different scales. I just didn't feel as fun for me. I do officially write down the species names so that I can, show it later or something. I don't know. Honestly, I might forget the Schizophyllum commune if I don't write it down, so there's that. I ended up going for a more headpiece type of approach. Maybe it's hair, maybe a helmet. I'm not entirely like sure even what I was going for. I really just felt this one out from the beginning. I actually went through a really long-lasting ugly phase with this one. I wasn't even entirely sure that I liked it enough to even like put it in the video, but I ultimately remembered that there are always bad drawings, bad sketches, and that it's not really authentic for me to just cut out an entire drawing because I didn't like it or I wasn't as proud of it as I was the other one. And honestly, thinking about it, if I wasn't so happy with the other drawing that I had just done, I don't know that I would be as bothered with the result of this one as I ended up being. So I figured that this was a nice opportunity to have a brief discussion on the nature of bad drawings. Just know I'm quoting around that one. And kind of the way that sketchbooks are not necessarily supposed to be a space where we have to produce exclusively good drawings, or how sketchbooks, as I like to use them, are usually places for us to really think through our ideas and get creative or get through art block or just kind of solidify thoughts. And so while I went into this hoping for it to be a piece that I was really proud of and really satisfied with, I also really needed to remind myself that this is a place for me to be creative. And even if I was working on a separate sheet of paper and treating this like a full illustration, there's no promise that it's going to be a remarkable masterpiece, and that just because I don't like it doesn't mean that it's not good art, and that it's not important for me as an artist to finish this piece or go through and really add it to my, I suppose, public repertoire. I don't know how to articulate that particularly well, but maybe it's not a portfolio-worthy drawing to me, but for my development and for my creative abilities, I don't need to hide it necessarily, especially from an audience of people who are going to definitely see a lot of bad drawings over the years, because I do intend to just keep doing this. I don't have a reason not to create long form content aside from maybe college making it a little bit more difficult, but this has been really fun for me. And I mean like really fun for me. This has been a whole different creative pursuit that I never thought about doing creatively. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I thought about YouTube, I just wanted to make long form content for people to view my art and my process, but this has kind of become a very fun way to view the creative process. And thinking about how I'm going to edit my videos and the type of music I'm going to put in and what type of videos I'll make next and what I'll talk about has been like a different like creative process, and has been a really good way for me to, I suppose, appreciate art and art creation a little bit more, because I'm now getting to watch my own entire art process, and I, to articulate it, have to really think through it. Like, why did I make this decision? Why didn't I make this decision? What do I want to talk about over this bit? And I've been really enjoying this. So you're definitely going to see a lot of like quote unquote bad art over the years. Bad just being something I'm not particularly super proud of. And that's how I was feeling about this for a long time. Now that it's been sitting in my sketchbook for a few days, I'm coming back to it and looking at it and watching how I went about the process. I really do like this piece a lot more than I originally did. I think that it's kind of grown on me a little bit. However, I do think that it was partially because I didn't quite get the fluidity that I wanted. I didn't get to emulate the mushroom quite as well as I had hoped for. And I think that is because I didn't have an entire full sheet of paper that I was dedicating to this illustration. If I were to have had more space, and I might even redraw this in the future just to scratch my itch for it, I do think that I would like to take that lower left corner and move it into the space and curve it into the space where my shaggy mane mushroom character is currently sitting. I think that might be why I'm really unsatisfied. It feels very blocked in a way that I don't think is very articulate or like authentic to the mushroom, and authentically like a good use of space. While I didn't go fully authentic to the mushroom with this one either, I did add a lot more colors to try and make myself more satisfied with the result. I think that compositionally this one is very stiff in a way that just isn't indicative of the mushroom, or even really indicative of the way I like to draw. So, bit of a longer talking section, but I do think that overall I am happy with where this ended up, but I also still feel like this is a quote-unquote bad drawing or not my best work. But it was definitely a learning process. This is something that I definitely want to approach on a bigger canvas, or maybe even just on a separate sheet of paper or a full spread where I can just take up all the space that I want, maybe do it a bit smaller, center, and let the mushroom kind of have that fluidity. I think that's what really impeded me loving this one the way I love my other one. So there's that. And then I also was kind of thinking in my voiceover talking chatty bits, let me know if I should name these, or if you have suggestions for names. I feel like Coprinus could be a good name for the Coprinus comatus, the shaggy mane, but I don't think Schizophyllum is ever gonna be a good character name, even for the sake of a one-off. I don't think commune is either, so I definitely feel like that one at least could use a name suggestion if anybody has an offerance for it, so keep me posted in the comments down below. Voiceover Rain popping in one last time before the outro and before finishing the piece. I'm getting a little bit of a flare-up, so I'm going to keep this little chunk pretty brief. But I eventually, for the sake of making myself like the piece more after going in with liner after liner and gel pen after gel pen, I start adding more color. I was kind of thinking that if I add a little bit more vibrancy to it, or I try and emulate kind of that softish pinkish hue, that I might be a little bit more satisfied with the final result, and I definitely feel like it did help a lot. And so the color very much did get me to a point where I felt a little bit more satisfied with the final result, but I definitely prefer my shaggy mane over my Schizophyllum, because I don't know the common name now that I think about it, but overall I don't hate it, so outro Rain here to set you free, unless of course you're interested in hitting that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it if you stuck along for my future artistic journeys. I also really would appreciate it if you or commented and shared it with anybody who might be interested. You don't have to, of course, but I really appreciate it if you do, and I'm also super appreciative that you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much. Then, my socials are down below, so that's my Instagram, Pinterest, Threads. Ko-fi is kind of a place where I blog a little bit, post my whips a little bit early, my photography, then my print-on-demand shops, music credit, and finally, my art supplies use are down below. So, if you're interested in any of that, that's there next week. Thank you so much. Bye!